Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Let's discuss about reflex action, reflex arch, the divine design of nature, with which the universe system has been designed by nature for perfection for human beings as such. Now, what is the definition of reflex action? A reflex action is a rapid, means sudden, forceful, involuntary, and motor response to a threshold value sensory stimulus occurring without conscious thought or control. This is slightly modified definition by me. It is a protective mechanism that allows the body to react quickly to potentially harmful situations. It is a quick, automatic reaction to a sensory input. The threshold thrush a sub-threshold stimulus results in local potential, and this is the endocrine and neuro gland response. There are two things which I make it very clear. It is rapid, it is sudden, it is uncontrolled, and it is depends upon the kind of action. You have threshold value or sub-threshold value, and sub-threshold values are connected inside the endocrine glands and neural system. And as far as threshold is the action with excitable cells like neuron cells or skeletal muscles. Now we are going to understand the concept little more clearly than what I have seen being taught in school, college, universities till date as far as reflex action is concerned. I am being very precise to the point because I want an holistic approach so that we know how to protect ourselves completely. Now, these are the second set of videos are primarily meant for perfect human life, perfect physical health, free from diseases, emotional stability, material wealth, and right education, and know everything to be a perfectly walking, talking encyclopedia. The reasons for failure. Do we attain objectives of life, which I have talked about it? And I will say, if we fail even to attain a disease-free life, we are falling sick. Why? Ignorance and no idea to learn things. We are ignorant to, we are no better as a perfect human being. We are not low pollens, custodians, guardians with which human beings were designed, or the way human brain has evolved to. We are sectarian, and that is a deficiency. Unless until we understand perfect anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, psychology, an entire universe within us, only then we can be a perfect human being, good for everybody. Only human beings have the freedom to think and take care of the entire universe as such. Nobody else can do it. Now, I've been also very clear. Religions give you mantras, yantra and tantra as such of different things. I do not want to go to itself, that is very important. What is more important for everybody to be a perfect scientist, and that to a spiritual scientist, is the Ganit Vidya, the divine mathematics. And all the mathematics I know, which I have learned in the last 70 years from my childhood till today, is a man-made concept of theorem, algebras and other things which are defective and defective. And I am glad from 2015 I have found Deviant, the divine design of nature, and in the light of that I can see the beauty in the entire universe from the highest to the smallest perfectly for everyone. And that is the reason I am making Ganit Vidya or divine mathematics as the concept with which I am moving on. Now, in neuroscience, I said there are 7 parts of the integrated system, and this is a symbol of Akhand which I have made, and you can see 7 petals of the lotus right on top. And this is the divine mathematics which I have made it very clear, has made me understand nature completely, because every day I see the same thing. Now, this is the nervous system classification given by the best of all the institutions throughout the world, from school, college to the university. and these contain only 6 stages, not 7 stages. And this is simple. There is sensory component, there is a peripheral nerve, there is central evaluation, there is a response, there is a motor, voluntary, involuntary, both are included here. Voluntary is with skeletal muscles, involuntary is smooth and cardiac muscles. That is where autonomic nervous system comes up, and that is where we come to control and see sympathetic and parasympathetic taking their part. This is what is taught everybody, and I do know with this we cannot really understand universe and ourselves completely. That's why this reflex arch is to take you to once again to the level of 7, so that we can be perfectly healthy, wealthy, walking, talking encyclopedia for the good of the self, good of everybody. Now the misconception which I say, the unexplored nervous system, which I do say, these are pacemakers of the heart, which is extension of the autonomic nervous system. The mindtrick system of digestive system is another extension of the autonomic nervous system, and neuroendocrine pacemakers of the uterus is another. These are the things which are not there. Unless until these 3 things, which are further extensions of autonomic nervous system, only then we can understand the 7 parts completely. As I told you, there are 8 lobes which talk, we 2 do not talk, which is central, unexplored concept of what you call autonomic nervous system. So without autonomic nervous system coming to the play, rest of the system is not complete. Now this is something which I have already spoken about. Conducting heart system is made of 10 parts. I am not going to detail of it. And pacemaker digestive is also made of 10. First, this one is to take food, water, nutrients, other things are absorbed for the homeostasis, and that is distributed by the heart. So those two are most important to make us, whether unconscious, conscious, subconscious, otherwise these systems will make us survive in homeostasis, which I am talking about. Both have a pacemakers, and that's excellent. First is cardiac muscle, this is smooth muscles. Now come to the third is, whatever may we say, child is to be, or the next generation has to be born. Unconscious, subconscious, painful, whatever it is, this process should go on and is designed with the neuroendocrine. By the time the child is full, head comes down, convicts the cervical canal, and the process starts of oxytocin and further development till the time. This should not be disturbed at all, and this is something also will make you complete in consciousness. And this is the concept which makes the unique perception within the women and make them the goddesses by them. And I do believe Sanatana Dharma always consider women to be most important, and they are the one who give us what we require. First mother is the mother tongue, is the mother language, is the mother, and that's it. She started teaching us even before we are born, and that's a beauty. That's why we need to respect and see. And my expectation from every mother is to be a perfect human being. So give birth to the perfect children, not with the defective knowledge, and that correction I am giving it to this. So the child is also born from a mother who is highly educated, enlightened and empowered. That's it. Now it comes to the question of the completion of the integrated system. 6 to I have taken to 7. You can see right at the bottom left side these 3 concepts have been added, and that's it. Insular cortex has been raised at the higher level. So 8 have been made 10 at the insular cortex on top, which is center of autonomic nervous system. This is extension of autonomic nervous system at the peripheral level. Once these 2 things are understood, only then you can be a perfect human being as such. As a result, you will be able to understand most evolved brain in the universe is the human brain, but unfortunately neuroscientists do not even know about it. I am going to talk about that also as we move on. Now this is neuron cell, I have already told, and here again I said there are 10 parts, and that's what Divyank is all about. Now this is the stage of the neuron cells. Again 10 parts I have shown, and not going into detail because I already spoken. You read that and see the continuation as such. Now this is a picture of reflex arch which is given in the paper. You can see in the books from school, college, university, the PhDs and all the world. All the things only give this particular picture. You have seen in the back which is being pulled, and that pain is felt and action is taken in the spinal cord, and as a result motor action takes place. This is reflex arch action which everybody talks about it. I have no doubt this is taught, this is perfectly fine, no doubt. But pain and this action is a sectarian part, not the complete action. This is what I am trying to take it to. This particular picture is the Integratred reflex action arch. In this particular picture, I have shown the same picture, but I have on the right side, I have brought three components. Posterior part of the spinal cord is a sensory in nature, and that is found in spinal cord at the back side, and also the brain part is also sensory in nature in the posterior part. In the center you have lateral horn cells, you can see in this particular picture, and that is where autonomic nervous system comes up. Whether it is cranial parasympathetic, which is from brainstem, midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata, or you have thoracolumbar sympathetic or sacral parasympathetic. These are the things which come up, and this is the sum which is found in insular cortex on top. Once this is understood, you understand reflex arch very well. And motor anterior is motor, but here I am making it clear, it is motor and involuntary, both come through the anterior horn cells. Posterior is that this lateral horn cells which arise, they come out only through this along with the nerves which go on. So efferent is the motor which is voluntary and involuntary both, and afferent is the sensory, and that is from inside and outside completely. And that is again I am going to show why everything with eyes open we should be in a position, and I make it very clear. Eyes open, senses open, only then you can be protected. If you shield another thing, you cannot really see it. Now the comes to the skin and sense receptors are given. This is again 7 parts, very good. I am not going to detail, we will discuss it later as such, but you can see very clearly those sensory receptors are seen in the bottom part. They give you pressure touch, fine touch, pain, pressure, proprioception, all these things are there in the skin as such. And once these are understood, they proceed from the skin. So this is for sensory cortex from the skin part, or the touch alone. Fine touch, deep touch, pain, temperature and proprioception, all are there in the skin and under the skin as such. And that's a beautiful design. And this is also, I have made it very clear, it is made from ectoderm along with the brain, eyes and this. I have also seen that skin can also see because it's made from ectoderm again, and that is again my experience has shown where we have a deficiency in yoga itself which people cannot see, and I can tell you my entire body can see, who's behind me can feel it, experience it. That kind of sensitivity can come only provided we are perfectly healthy, we are pure vegetarian, no alcohol, no smoking, no drugs, anything which can reduce the sensory component or motor component deficient should not be taken. That cannot give you the kind of reflex arch which I am talking about. If you have to be perfect, you should be free for anything which can disturb your homeostasis. The homeostasis desired by the nature is the perfect one. You let it happen, and that is important. Now there comes the question of the action potential which I have shown in the last one. There are certain deficiencies which I have rectified and given it. There are 3 points which I have make it very sub threshold, you can see in the beginning, that is the endocrine, autonomic, ganglion and are responsible. And as far as threshold is concerned, with the muscles and nervous system, that is where it comes up. That's one part. Then sodium in Then also sodium potassium ATP pump, which they do not talk, has to be spoken about it. Also slow sodium ion influx. And again I am making it clear, my center is atoms are different, ions, there is a less amount of sodium which has got 11 protons but only 10 electrons. And as far as fluoride is concerned, it's 9 protons but 10 electrons in ionic form. Similarly, as far as potassium is concerned, it's 19 protons but 18 electrons. That's why they become very important in water content, and that is also something which I've been saying. Nernst equation, a log of 61 actually represents water, and water is 61.8034. That is also rectification I've given in the last one. Now I'm going to give the wisdom. In this particular picture you can see very clear a spontaneous motor response to sensory threshold stimulus, and that is for skeletal muscles. Incoming signals you can see posterior thing, root, lateral horns and anterior horn is complete. The autonomic nerve runs from the lateral horns, sensory threshold, mechanical, then again kind of stimulus. You can have mechanical stimulus, you can have chemical stimulus, you can have lycal. And I am bringing again for the psychological benefit. There are psychological stimuli which are autonomic thing which come from thought. It not necessarily be touch things that the thought itself can affect it, and that is where psychology centers on autonomic nervous system, and that is most important. And we should take the sensory system also in such a way that they should be logical and other thing. Otherwise fear psychosis will rise because you get fear about it, and that is where sympathetic overactivity comes up, and it is as bad as that. But people are not able to do because the heart rate is increased, energy is much more than required, and then they land up in mental asylum with the psychiatrist drugging them medicine and make them the vegetable. That's also a point which I'm making it very clear. And motor response in neuromuscular junction, skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle. Once this is understood, then only you know what is perfect reflex action as such. Now come to the efferent system, which we are going to see how the detailed data information comes up. Now I am bringing into picture the eyes. Unless until eyes are open, only then they are giving you the knowledge about the external world. Both pupillary reflex and accommodation reflex are associated with eyes, and both have 10 parts. And this is a picture which I had drawn, and this is where I am showing. Unless until this is clear, you can have accommodation reflex. As you can see, only then you can have a perfect homeostatic state or reflex arch, and you will be saved come what may be. All the world we should do with the eyes open with super consciousness of Turiya stage, and that is what Akhand Vidyashan and Akhand Yoga and Akhand Sutra talking about. Now as far as the Shruti is concerned, that if you want to hear the direct sound, you should be in tune with the nature. Here again is the same thing, beautifully designed, and once this is understood, I think we can move on to the next stage. Now smell and taste are also connected. First two are electrical, these are the chemical, and then you can see how the water plays a role and how smell and taste are interconnected, where I have given example of coffee can taste good only provided we have no cold whatsoever. So this is also something. The four I am talking about. The skin is the fifth one. Now as I told you, autonomic nervous system is very sensitive, and sympathetic system is present in every part of the body like a nervous system, top to the bottom, whereas parasympathetic is within the body for rest, digest and conserve energy, and sympathetic is going to give you everything from external to internal to completely. So these are the 7 parts which make us perfect, whether we are those 3 organs which are pacemakers are complete as such, including insular cortex. Now the touch gives you the information. How this is carried I have already explained, and once this is understood, we can get the information to the brain, and how the information is carried to the thalamus, and also the posterior part of the parietal lobe, which perceives the things. But I have also gone on to say pain and temperature goes up to thalamus, up the opposite side, but not to the neocortex. So as a result, pain we can, by concentrating over the thalamus or below the pain thing, is done. Central evaluation is both subjective and objective evaluation is required, not one alone. And I want all the scientists of neuroscientists of the world to experience thing and then do the evaluation. Don't use something else without any personal experience. You will not even know what you are looking for, how you are looking for. You need an experience within you, which is subjective, and then evaluate objectively. That was the central part of my PhD work. I had experienced the movement of Kundalini chakras, nadis, of the autonomic nervous system within my body, and then I produced something which is much more integrated than anyone in the world has ever done. We are going to show you that in the process. Now all the information is carried to the brain. You can see in this particular, and this is what there is a green, which is sensory, this is motor, and how it is placed in the brain is already shown very clearly. And in the center you can see sensory component or sympathetic component below the pelvis, right of the soul, is presented inside, not outside, whereas from back, spinal cord, right up to the brain is outside. So perception of the internal world is down, whereas external world is from top. Now descending efferent execution is to be understood very clearly, both voluntary and involuntary components. Now this is center, you have the posterior sensory component. Out of this 38.196% is a sensory component, 61 is a motor component. How they form, how basal ganglion works as a programming and planning, and primary cortex and somatosensory cortex as the execution, and cerebellum does the coordination. These three things put together to make you conscious as well. Once you learn, it becomes some. That's why your training is very important, whether in education, and driving as such is one of the concepts. I think that has made me perfect within and outside. Maybe that is divine grace for driving for 50 years with God grace, maybe 55 years, and it is absolutely free from any accident till date, because my concentration is completely with all the three, and that's it. Now the descending components, how they start from top and how they move on, how they take care of it, I have already explained. And once that is understood, your motor action is going to begin. And similarly, this also associated with involuntary, autonomic, is also goes side by side. All the fibers, sensory are the backside, motor and involuntary come to the interior nerves itself. They go along with the blood vessels. Sympathetic along the blood vessels from top to the bottom. So they cover it up, both sensory and that. That's where I have made it clear. Sympathetic system or parasympathetic system is able to take the information from other things completely. Now I am talking about the 7 layers of the neocortex, which is very important, and I am repeating it again. All the signals which a neuroscientist know of the sensory component go to the 4th layer, and all the motor component from there. The first, second and third layer, molecular, external granular and external pyramidal cells functions are not known to the neuroscientists at all. As a result, they do not know how to use the brain completely as such, and that is again I am making it very clear, unless until they had experienced the Kundalini Yoga or Akhand Yoga, you cannot really talk of the neuroscience, because you are incomplete, and this is the thing which I have talked about. Now based on my PhD work, I am saying the first main subject is me, and control are every other human being. You can see the picture is identical, me and them, with eyes closed. Very clear. In eyes closed is identical. That's what I said. you should do with open senses, not the closed senses. Only difference is the power in my case is almost 3 times more than the power of that. And samadhi is the concentration on the head. Dharana is no concentration. Dhyana is concentration in the bottom or pelvic region. As simple as that. But very moment I open the eyes, you see the difference. Main subject Shiv Bhushan Sharma, you can see abundance of power in alpha and total power, particularly in samadhi stage, is phenomenal, because I have concentrating beyond the brain itself. So three things become like a system to the whole consciousness. My focus is outside the brain, 1 foot ahead or higher than that, and as a result power is there. And none of the normal people or other people are able to do is a picture there. And this was almost from 1993 to 2008, 8 years of research, consensus on thousands and thousands of subjects. This was the only thing, nothing else changed. But over a period, when I got into power spectrum analysis, and starting from one channel which was studied for my PhD work, because it was not available. But today we have equipments with the power spectrum analysis of analyzing all the 64 parts of the brain. And I can tell you, on all the 64 parts, with the closed eyes, I have 8.5 hertz throughout the brain, which is not found in somebody else. But with open eyes, it is 8 hertz throughout the brain, which is also not found in something. This is again, when my senses are open, my power is in tune with the universal consciousness. That's what I say. Akash Kosh, the universal consciousness, Schumann resonance field, is 7.83 alpha frequency, and 8 and 7.83 is identical. No wonder I am able to read the Akash Kosh, get all the information and give it to the world Divyank for the first time. And Divyank happened in 2015. By the time all the 64 parts with the open eyes were in tune with the universal consciousness, and that is has to change the whole neuroscience itself, change the divine mathematics, change the physics, change chemistry, change medical sciences. Now everything is totally on a different plane. This is something which was done by sages who wrote Vedas and Upanishads thousands and thousands years ago. And same thing I am able to show that spirituality in the modern science, keeping all the work done by mathematicians, physics, chemistry and sciences, with a rectification, bringing both science and spiritual together and then presenting as such. I think this is the knowledge which I want everybody to have as a reflex arch is concerned. We all human beings can do very well. When we do that, we will be perfectly physically healthy, emotionally stable, mentally powerful, in tune with universe, will never fall sick, nothing, everything can be well taken by the system itself, provided you do not have even single thing which is disturbing the sensory, motor or otherwise as such. That's what I say. Pure vegetarian, no alcohol, no smoking, no drugs, no painkillers, no thing. And least you do and live only by the food which is required, you can be perfect one. And I make it one thing very clear with all the responsibility, I am not a Democrat. Majority need not necessarily be right, and I've shown, I'm single-handedly I'm showing one man has done. And I'm not a diplomat to say, okay, you are done, you are perfect. No, either you are perfect or not perfect. And I say perfection is in only one man, but I know everybody can be, provided you do the way I am doing it. And I'm not a dictator. I'm only sharing with the world. It doesn't matter whether you follow or doesn't follow. It makes no difference, because I'm not interested in money. I'm not interested in fame. I'm not interested. As a matter, nobody knows me, and I'm very happy about it because I'm not disturbed. But at the same time, I would like to leave for the next generation the education which is perfect, so that they don't have the difficulty which I see my elders, I see my contemporaries, my juniors and sub-juniors. But next generation should have a perfect knowledge to build on. That's the reason I am making it perfection to the world in a free thing for everybody and everybody. And I think that is what human beings were designed. Money is a bondage, name is a bondage, fame is bondage. Anybody you are looking up to somebody to approve your is not at all. But you should be perfect in everything, and that's what it is all about. And with that, I go to the last one, not to speak. I think what I've said is more than. I want everybody to become perfect with themselves, and everybody can become provided they make an effort on their own. Nobody is going to live for you. You are born alone, you live alone, you die alone. You learn, take care, and enjoy. And that's it. The very moment you're depending on doctors, or educators, and other things, and you don't become your teachers, you are finished. You are just a liability for yourself, a liability for the world, and that is what I've seen. All the scientists have not given us the wisdom that we could be a perfect with moksha, freedom from constraints and restraints of life. And that is what it is all about. Anyway, thank you very